Waxaa cabayaa biyo. I'm drinking water. Before you start the video, try to get the free PDF file on the description. In this tutorial, I am going to teach you present progressive in Somali, lesson 1. You will also learn how to use it, when to use it, and some mistakes to avoid that some Somali learners do. First, you will learn 15 very useful verbs which are progressive. Then, we will learn building sentences with all Somali pronouns, since each Somali pronoun uses its different way of verb making. Also, you will learn how to make question form and negative. And at the end of this lesson, you will learn some mistakes to avoid that some Somali learners do. If you are new here, I am Abzi, the Somali native tutor, and I would really love your support. Let's get started. Please make sure you are in a stable room without noise and have a notebook because this lesson is huge and useful in Somali. How to use present progressive in Somali. First, let's learn 15 very useful verbs which are present progressive or continuous. Abaya, disaya, unaya, isticmaalaya, qoraya, aqrinaya, dhegaysanaya, hadlaya, ciyaaraya, baranaya, caawinaya, cabaya, wacaya, nadiifinaya, dhaqaya. Now, let's learn sentence building using the verbs we learned. So, let's learn first I am plus progressive verb in Somali. The formula is easy. Whenever you see a Somali verb ends with consonant, add aya to make progressive or ing form. For instance, ab is to drink, so the verb ends with b, which is consonant. To make I am drinking, we need to add at the end aya, and we say abaya. In order to say I am drinking, you need to use the pronoun I in Somali, which is aniga. But we use the helping pronoun, which is waxa. So we say waxa cabaya biyo. Dear student, it's very important to know the helping pronouns, and you can watch now on the first comment, or you can get on the description. This is to build and also end this with consonant, so we can add aya to make it ing form or progressive. This aya, which is I am building. Ciyaaraya. Waxa ciyaaraya game. I'm playing a game. Isticmaalaya. Waxa isticmaalaya mobile. I'm using a phone. Qoraya. Waxa qoraya book. I'm writing a book. Formula 2 or Rule 2. Whenever you see a Somali verb ends with vowel I, you need to add n before you add in aya. For instance, aqri is to read, so the verb ends with vowel I. To make I am reading, we need to add n before we add aya, and we say aqrinaya. So you add na, aqrin, and aqrinaya. Waxa aqrinaya book. I'm reading a book. Caawinaya. Waxa caawinaya hooyo. I'm helping mom. Nadiifinaya. Waxa nadiifinaya qolka. I'm cleaning the room. Dumi, duminaya. Waxa duminaya guriga. I'm destroying the house. This is only example. It's not even good though. Formula 3 or Rule 3. Whenever you see a Somali verb ends with vowel O, you need to change the vowel O to A and add na before you add aya. The reason for this is to make the pronouncing better, clearer, and sweet. For instance, baro is to learn, so the verb ends with vowel O. To make I am learning, we need to change the vowel O to vowel A. And we add na or n before we add aya. And we say baranaya. Waxa baranaya Somali. I'm learning Somali. Dhegayso, dhegaysanaya. Waxa dhegaysanaya raadi. I'm listening a radio. Raadi we call radio. Duko, dukanaya. Waxa dukanaya salada duhurka. I'm praying the Dhuhr prayer. So now let's learn you are plus progressive verb. The formula is easy. In order to say you are plus progressive verb, we need to add a sa at the end of every verb ends with consonants. For instance, ciyaar, ciyaaraysa. Waxa ciyaaraysa game. You are playing a game. Isticmaal, isticmaalaysa. Waxa isticmaalaysa mobile. You're using a phone or mobile. Qor, qoraysa. Waxa qoraysa book. You're writing a book. Formula or rule 2 is the same as the way we learned before. So now, if the verb ends with vowel I, we need to add n or na before we add a sa. For instance, caawi, caawinaysa. Waxa caawinaysa hooyo. You're helping mom. Nadiifi, nadiifinaysa. Waxa nadiifinaysa qolka. You're cleaning the room. Formula or rule 3 is still the same as the way we learned before. If the verb ends with vowel O, we need to change the vowel O to vowel A and add na or n before you add a sa. For instance, dhegayso, dhegaysanaysa. Waxa dhegaysanaysa raadi. You're listening a radio. Duko, dukanaysa. Waxa dukanaysa salada duhurka. You're praying the Dhuhr prayer. So now let's learn you are plural plus progressive verb. In order to say you are plural form plus progressive verb, we need to add a sin at the end of every verb ends with consonants. For instance, ciyaar, ciyaaraysiin. Waxa ciyaaraysiin game. You playing a game. Isticmaal, isticmaalaysiin. Waxa isticmaalaysiin mobile. You are using a mobile. Qor, qoraysiin. Waxa qoraysiin book. You're writing a book. Formula or rule 2. If the verb ends with vowel I, we need to add na before we add a sin. For instance, caawi, caawinaysiin. Waxa caawinaysiin hooyo. You are helping mom. Nadiifi, nadiifinaysiin. Waxa nadiifinaysiin qolka. You're cleaning the room. Formula or rule 3. If the verb ends with vowel O, we need to change the vowel O to vowel A and add na before you add a sin. For instance, dhegayso, dhegaysanaysiin. Waxa dhegaysanaysiin raadi. You're listening radio. Duko, dukanaysiin. Waxa dukanaysiin salada duhurka. You're praying the Dhuhr prayer. So now let's learn we are plus progressive verb. In order to say we are plus progressive verb, we need to add a na at the end of every verb ends with consonants. For instance, ciyaaraynaa. Waxaa ciyaaraynaa game. We're playing game. isticmaalaynaa. Waxaa isticmaalaynaa mobile. We're using a mobile. qoraynaa. Waxaa qoraynaa book. We're writing a book. Formula or rule 2. If the verb ends with vowel I, we need to add na before we add ayna. For instance, caawinaynaa. Waxaa caawinaynaa hooyo. We are helping mom. nadiifinaynaa. Waxaa nadiifinaynaa qolka. We're cleaning the room. Formula or rule 3. If the verb ends with vowel O, we need to change the vowel O to vowel A and add na before we add ayna. For instance, dhegaysanaynaa. Waxaa dhegaysanaynaa raadi. We're listening radio. dukanaynaa. Waxaa dukanaynaa salaada duhurka. We're praying the Zuhr prayer. So now, let's learn they are plus progressive verb. In order to say they are plus progressive verb, we need to add ayaan at the end of every verb ends with consonants. For instance, ciyaarayaan. Waxay ciyaarayaan game. They are playing game. isticmaalayaan. Waxay isticmaalayaan mobile. They're using a mobile. qorayaan. Waxay qorayaan book. They're writing a book. Formula or rule 2. If the verb ends with vowel I, we need to add na before we add ayaan. For instance, caawinayaan. Waxay caawinayaan hooyo. They're helping mom. nadiifinayaan. Waxay nadiifinayaan qolka. They are cleaning the room. Formula or rule 3. If the verb ends with vowel O, we need to change the vowel O to vowel A and add na before you add ayaan. For instance, dhegaysanayaan. Waxay dhegaysanayaan raadi. They are listening radio. dukanayaan. Waxay dukanayaan salaada duhurka. They're praying Zuhr prayer. So now, let's learn he is plus progressive verb. In order to use he is plus progressive verb, we need to add aya at the end of every verb ends with consonants. Please note, this is the same as I am plus progressive verb, but the helping pronoun is really different. If we now say, waxaa ciyaarayaa game, that is, I am playing, because of helping verb, which is waxaa. But if we say wuxuu ciyaarayaa game, that means he is playing because of wuxuu. For instance, ciyaarayaa. Wuxuu ciyaarayaa game. He is playing a game. isticmaalayaa. Wuxuu isticmaalayaa mobile. He is using a phone. qorayaa. Wuxuu qorayaa book. He is writing a book. Formula or rule 2. If the verb ends with vowel I, we need to add na before we add aya. For instance, caawinayaa. Wuxuu caawinayaa hooyo. He's helping mom. nadiifinayaa. Wuxuu nadiifinayaa qolka. He's cleaning the room. Formula or rule 3. If the verb ends with vowel O, we need to change the vowel O to A and add na before we add aya. For instance, dhegaysanayaa. Wuxuu dhegaysanayaa raadi. He's listening radio. dukanayaa. Wuxuu dukanayaa salaada duhurka. He's praying the Zuhr prayer. And at last, we're going to learn she is plus progressive verb. In order to say she is plus progressive verb, we need to add a sa at the end of every verb and is with consonants. Please note, this is the same as you are plus progressive verb, but the helping pronoun is really different. If we now say waxaa ciyaaraysaa game, that is you're playing because of helping verb which is waxaa. But if we say waxay ciyaaraysaa game, that means she's playing because of waxay. For instance, ciyaar ciyaaraysaa, waxay ciyaaraysaa game. She's playing a game. Isticmaal isticmaalaysaa, waxay isticmaalaysaa mobile. She's using a mobile. Qor qoraysaa, waxay qoraysaa book. She's writing a book. Formula or rule 2 is the same as the way we learned before. So now the verb end is with vowel I. We need to add na before we add a sa. For instance, caawi caawinaysaa, waxay caawinaysaa hooyo. She's helping mom. Nadiifi nadiifinaysaa, waxay nadiifinaysaa qolka. She's cleaning the room. Formula or rule 3. If the verb ends with vowel O, we need to change the vowel O to vowel A and add na before you add a sa. For instance, dhagayso dhagaysanaysaa, waxay dhagaysanaysaa raadi. She's listening radio. Duko dukanaysaa, waxay dukanaysaa salaada duhurka. She's praying zuhur prayer. So now, how to make question and negative form using present progressive in Somali. In order to make a question form, you need to know about question words for all Somali pronouns. There are 3 question words in present progressive using Somali language: ma, may, and mu or mo. The question word goes after the noun and drops the helping pronouns. For instance, waxaa ciyaarayaa game. I am playing game. We'll start from the noun, which is game, and we will add question word, which is ma, and we will add the verb, which is ciyaarayaa. So we say, game ma ciyaarayaa. Am I playing game? We can't use waxaa in question and negative form. So question word for I, you, and we is ma. Question word for they and she is may. Not may. May. It's one A, but we're saying may. And at last, question word for he is mu or mo. But mu is very useful than mo. Let me explain how each one works. Starting with I. Waxaa ciyaarayaa game. I'm playing game. Game ma ciyaarayaa. Am I playing game? Ha waa ciyaarayaa. Yes, I'm playing. Maya ma ciyaaraayi. No, I'm not playing. Waxaa isticmaalayaa mobile. I'm using a phone. Mobile ma isticmaalayaa. Am I using a phone? Ha waa isticmaalayaa. Yes, I'm using. Maya ma isticmaalaayi. No, I'm not using. So the positive form is very easy. You need to say first ha, which is yes. Then wa instead of waha and add the verb. For instance, ha waa ciyaarayaa. The negative form as easy as you can see. You just need to say first maya, which is no, then add negative word, which is ma, instead of ma. Also add I, ending of each verb. For instance, maya ma ciyaaraayi. You singular. Waxaa ciyaaraysaa game. You playing game. Game ma ciyaaraysaa. Are you playing game? Waxaa isticmaalaysaa mobile. You're using a phone. Mobile ma isticmaalaysaa. Are you using a phone? You plural. Waxaa ciyaaraysiin game. Game ma ciyaaraysiin. Waxaa isticmaalaysiin mobile. mobile ma isticmaalaysiin? We. Waxaa ciyaaraynaa game. Game ma ciyaaraynaa? Waxaa isticmaalaynaa mobile. Mobile ma isticmaalaynaa? They. Waxay ciyaarayaan game. Game ma ciyaarayaan? Waxay isticmaalayaan mobile. Mobile ma isticmaalayaan? He. Wuxuu ciyaarayaa game. Game muu ciyaarayaa? Wuxuu isticmaalayaa mobile. Mobile muu isticmaalayaa? She. Waxay ciyaaraysaa game. Game ma ciyaaraysaa? Waxay isticmaalaysaa mobile. Mobile ma isticmaalaysaa? Now, some mistakes you need to avoid as a Somali learner. Don't use present progressive sentence without helping pronoun like some students do. Aniga cunaya breeze. That is totally wrong. You need to say waxa cunaya breeze because instead of aniga we use helping pronoun which is waxa. Avoid answering in a long form. In Somali, it's not that good. If the question is ashir ma qoraysa, just say ha or maya. Or even you can say wa qoraya, not ha wa qoraya ashirka. That's it for this lesson, dear students. If this lesson reaches 1000 likes, then I will make lesson 2 in present progressive. And I hope this lesson is very helpful. Again, Abzi loves your support. To support me, you just need to hit the like button and subscribe for more. If you have any questions, you can now leave me on the comment section and I will try to read all of them and respond. Nabad Galio for now and see you in the next lesson.